Welcome to this quick screencast on a very brief review of the Java class hierarchy, building a class hierarchy in Java. So here's a very simple class hierarchy. We have a shape base class, it represents a generic shape, and then we have two subclasses. One's a circle and one's a square. So that's our class hierarchy. We only have three. And we know that a circle is a shape and a square is a shape, but a circle and a square are not the same thing. So let's talk about our shape class, public class shape. It has a private member variable that's name field, so that's where we store the name of the shape. It has a constructor that takes a name and then assigns it to the member variable. And then we have an accessor, getName, that returns the variable that holds the name. And notice that our shape does not have a way of changing the name once it's constructed. So it's a read-only variable, so once you've set the name of the shape, you can't change it later. So now let's talk about our circle class, because we're going to go from left to right. And so we say our public class circle extends shape. So now we know that circle is a subclass, the shape, and it has its own private member that's the radius of the circle. So it extends shape, it adds a concept of a radius. And so now we need to have a constructor. And my first attempt at a constructor says I create my constructor, it takes the radius and assigns this.radius equals r, and we're happy, right? Well, actually no, because I didn't set the name of the shape. And I can't do it directly because there's no set method on shape, so I didn't inherit a set method for the name, and the name is private, so I can't access it. So this is illegal, and oh, by the way, there's not a default constructor in shape because we supplied one that takes a name. So this is just not right. We've got to call the parents class constructor, so we need to call super name, and now we have to add the name of our circle to our constructor because we need to provide enough information for the base, our parent class, to be able to build whatever it is. So now instead of having a single parameter in our constructor, now we have to have a name for our shape and the radius of our circle. So we call super on the name, which calls the public shape on the name, sets the name, and then the radius r, and then we also have a accessor getRadius. Again, our circle has a read-only radius, so you can't change the radius once it's been set when you build your circle. That's just the design we're using. So now let's look at the square, which is very similar to circle, but instead of having a radius, we have a height. It extends shape. We need the constructor that has enough information for the shape plus the information for the square. So that's why we have the name and the height. We do the same, and again we have a get height. We potentially could have other things, but right now that's what we're doing. So very simple class hierarchy. We have three classes. You can instantiate all of them. So if I want to create a shape, I say shape s equals new shape, and then I can call the getName to print out the shape's name. If I want to create a circle, I need to supply the name of the circle plus the radius. And then I can print out the radius, and I also inherit the getName method from the shape, so I can call c.getName, so I can know what the name of my circle is. Similarly with a square, I can create a square, supply its name and its height, print out the height, or print out its name. And we could also say that we have a shape 1 is equal to C, which is our circle, because C is a circle, C is a circle, but circles are also shapes, so we can assign it to the shape variable. We can also assign Q, which is our square, to a shape variable. That's completely legal because squares are shapes and circles are shapes, so that's fine. But if we try to say square Q1 is equal to a circle, well, squares and circles are separate classes. You cannot do that. You can't assign a square to a circle or a circle to a square, so that's completely illegal. So that's a general, very quick hierarchy or talk about Java classes and hierarchies. Remember that when you create a subclass, your constructor needs to call the superclass's constructor so that they will initialize all the stuff that it needs, and so we need to call super with all the information that the parent class needs, so our constructor is going to need to have parameters to supply that information to the parent constructor. Thank you very much.